Shana Tova. So, balance. Balance is key. Without it, we might fall over. As a parent, if we are too strict, we might overwhelm or even crush our kids, and they would not thrive. If we were too chill as parents, we might not provide the boundaries they need to be safe and sound. We strive to find that fulcrum point of just enough to make all just right so that all can move forward in the right direction. Like Goldilocks, we need a bowl of porridge that is not too hot, not too cold, but just right, right? There's a children's story about a kingdom that had a king who did not know about Shabbat until the king went on a trip and came to meet a family in the kingdom who celebrated Shabbat. The king stayed with them and learned how beautiful Shabbat was, and it was beautiful. So beautiful, in fact, that the king went home and declared that every day from now on would be Shabbat. Well, you might guess how that turned out. The kingdom completely fell apart. It turns out that if all we ever did was rest, nothing else could ever get done. The food would not be harvested and delivered. The garbage would not be taken away. The dentist could not fix any cavities. And on it goes. And so, as amazing as Shabbat is, it cannot be every day. Shabbat would actually lose its meaning if it were to be every day. The just right amount of Shabbat turns out to be 1/7 of a week, says Judaism. If we keep this balance, we can keep the world going and keep ourselves going. And once in a while, we sprinkle in some additional holidays as needed. As with this Shabbat story, the same is true with another and somewhat similar subject. I am my own person with my needs, wants, skills, wisdoms, and goals. And you are your own person too. And we each need time to tend the stuff that is only ours. I actually love it when I can have some time to myself where I get to be just me. And this summer, I had this for a few days. And I'm so aware that my having that time alone of retreat depended on a lot of other people. My husband was with our daughter. The cabin where I was staying belongs to a lifelong friend built by her grandparents and maintained all these years by the future generations. The groceries I needed to buy involved people to harvest and make the food, people to stock the shelves at the store, and more. I needed to fill my gas tank of my hybrid car to drive there and back. But my gas tank cover is broken, and it doesn't open on its own. It's actually literally impossible to fill my tank without the help of another person prying it open as I push the button inside the car. So my solitary time of retreat depended on the work and time of a lot of other people, because I'm entirely dependent on other people, always, even when I set out to be alone. There's an ever-present tension of balance between self and community. Too much self or not enough, too much community or not enough. And this is a tension I feel present during the High Holy Days. On one hand, the work of these Yamim Noraim, these High Holy Days, is deeply personal and private. Each of us is journeying through our personal work of tshuva, repentance, and returning to our derech yashar, a straight path, the right path upon which we were meant to be walking all along. And what is on my path, or on the path I veered from inadvertently or in full awareness, is not necessarily what's on your path. We are individuals in all of our uniqueness, beauty, and suffering. And each of us has deeply personal work to do during these high holy days. At the same time, the high holy days are a time where we get to come together as a community. We say prayers in the first person plural to say, I may be on my own journey, but I am journeying with you on your journey. We sing prayers and songs not to hear ourselves sing alone, but to feel our voice part of a larger communal voice of prayer. And we are thinking about issues that impact every one of us. The high holy days reflect the essential structure of Judaism, which is one of togetherness, which is designed such that many of our prayers could not even be said without a minyan, 10 people. Our oppressors have even known this about Judaism and have used this against us in times of targeted oppression when they forbade us from gathering together in prayer together. It was devastating. And we all remember how strange and disorienting it was in recent years when we could not be together in person due to COVID. 2 years ago, you were all not in this room in person with me on this day. I could not hear your voices, and you could not hear each other's. Thankfully, we had the marvel of technology and Steve Portnoy to bring us together in some way, and it was so important that we had at least that. And of course, we are not the only people who want and need to come together as a community. The nature of our species is that we are inherently communal, just as the stories about Shabbat and my retreat this summer show. In our Haftarah reading for Rosh HaShanah, which we will hear chanted by Owen in a few moments, we read of a woman named Hannah, grieving because of her barrenness and the treatment of others in her family towards her because she is barren. Having not eaten from grief, she goes to the temple to pray alone. Her mouth is moving with the prayers of her heart that are not audible to others, and she is weeping. She is seen in this state by the temple priest Eli, who is himself sitting alone beside the entrance of the temple. He judges her instantly, as she is surely drunk, because what else could explain the hysterical woman talking all by herself, talking to herself? So he approaches her and accuses her with her judgment. But she counters him, explaining that she's not drunk at all, but rather she is in anguish, and she explains why. Eli instantly transforms from his place of judgment to one of blessing. He is able to see who she really is, to have compassion, and says, Lechi l'shalom. Ve'elohei Yisrael yiten et she'latech asher sha'alt me imo. Go forward in peace and wholeness, and may God grant you what you have requested. And then it says about Hannah, Vatelach ha'isha le darcha. She went forth towards her derech, her path. She is righted again. She knows shalom, wholeness and peace. And so she eats. And soon her prayers are answered. And she conceives and births a son named Shmuel, or Samuel. I see 2 important things happening here. The first is an example of someone, Eli the priest, making a false judgment about another person, Hannah, but then through engagement and willingness to listen, he transforms. The second thing I see is an example of someone, Eli, who, when he listens to and sees this other person, Hannah, something transforms for her. 2 individuals alone, one inwardly focused, the other outwardly focused, one judging, one suffering. Eli, supposedly a wise and learned community member, has too much judgment. Hannah, apparently beloved to her husband, is all alone in her grief. Now, judgment is an important, even essential quality. I'm driving and I discern that there's a deer ahead in the road. It happened the other day. I must slow down, possibly stop, turn on my emergency lights to warn ongoing traffic and the traffic behind me. We can all think of 1,000 examples of when we need our judgment and discernment. But judgment can also be misjudgment, which can be quite harmful. How much judgment should we have? And what to do with that judgment is a balance we need to find. And if our judgment is misguided, we need to be able to shift it. Being alone in grief can be essential also, but it also can be unbearable. When someone sees us and hears us and understands us, it can be all that we need to step away from the all-consuming grief, and we can come back into balance. Perhaps part of the meaning of why we read this story today on Rosh HaShanah is to show us that something important happens when we enter into community with others. We expand and change as we see new perspectives, and we are lifted and blessed as we are seen. This Haftarah is simultaneously about how we see and how we are seen. We need judgment and discernment, but if we are only in that place, we will not be able to see what or who is actually in front of us. We will not see Hannah, and we will not have the opportunity to grow because of our encounter with her. Likewise, we need to feel our grief and honor it with prayer, but we also need to not remain alone in our grief. Praying to God may not be enough. We may need to be seen and loved by another human. If we remain alone, we might become stuck in our grief. This story is about finding the balance of just the right amount so that we each can become who we are supposed to be. As we go forward with our personal work of teshuvah, we can ask, did I judge too much or too little? Did I listen enough? Or did I harden my heart to the truth of another? Did I isolate myself? Or did I open to the blessings of others? Did I lose myself in others? Or did I have good boundaries to keep me in alignment with who I really am? What we do alone matters, and what we do in community matters. So much blessing and grace can be possible by consciously choosing how to be ourselves and how to be community members. May we all be blessed to find balance in our lives, to be alone and to be together, to be a blessing to ourselves and each other, to be discerning individuals and community members, to share our perceptions and our truths, so that we may honor ourselves as we see the other before us, so that we may be a blessing for each other and find our way back to our center of who we set out to be, that is a derech shalom, a path of wholeness. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so. Shana Tova and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.